do these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling and flare. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on ucy.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. Really happy to be back alive and well on this Monday, June 19th, 2017, in one of the most interesting times to be alive. And things got a lot more interesting today because we're now getting closer and closer and closer to the brink of, war with Russia, which could, go a number of ways. In the worst case scenario, we're looking at possible World War III situation. That's the top story on the antimedia.org right now. Please go to the site, sign up, upvote the stories you find important, submit articles and videos or whatever you think is newsworthy over on the My News section, and we'll publish it up on the site, and you'll get your voice out there, and it'll help us gather up the content, because we are one of the first really crowdsourced and crowd-curated news websites out there, and so it's less of us saying, hey, we want you to read this and we want you to think this and that. It's more of you guys upvoting and downvoting the stuff that you find important, so other people get to see the stories that everyone else thinks are important. And of course, our job is to surface other stories that are maybe not getting the coverage that they should be, or that are being skewed by the media, or not being covered by the media at all. Like today, we had a story up that we aggregated. The mainstream media is still at war with Bernie Sanders. Here's why. The war against the anti-establishment mainstream left is still going on. Most recently, Bernie Sanders was blamed by the New York Times for the guy that went and shot that white supremacist Republican congressman. The New York Times laid that at Bernie Sanders' feet. Bernie Sanders, I've never seen the guy encourage violence, unlike Donald Trump, who has encouraged violence several times. But Bernie Sanders has never, ever, that I've seen, and, not physical violence, of course, political violence and, taking other people's money and shit and using it how he feels it should be used. Yeah, that case could be made. But, I've never seen Bernie Sanders advocate for physical violence, and the New York Times laying it at his feet is just another way for them to undermine the progressive left, I guess you can call it, which, in my opinion, is the sane left. The sane left are the people who voted for Bernie Sanders, the people who are critical of, corporate America, critical of the banking system, critical of, the oligarchy, and a lot of those same people that supported Bernie are also critical of foreign policy, which I believe is the biggest single issue that we face as people in the United States. Although Bernie Sanders himself may have been soft on the issue of foreign policy, from my perspective, his followers are much stronger on foreign policy, from what I could tell. Anyway, that being said, let me introduce my longtime co-host to the show, DB Schwartz. What's up, man? How you doing tonight, dude?
Hey, bro. Just still expecting a backlash that didn't really come from the Philandro Castile acquittal, and it's partially because of how heavy the presence was by the MPD and the St. Paul PD, but it's kind of in between the two cities where this took place. It's technically St. Paul, but it's really right in the middle of the two cities, and it's like a rift, because you can see where it is a racial thing, but it's more than that. It's a money thing more than anything. Like, you see the Cosby trial now getting mistrialed because he had ridiculously good representation because he has unlimited money, essentially. And then with the Castile thing, well, you had a prosecutor that, let's face it, was kind of not really wholeheartedly going after the officer, because if the officer did have to pay a price for this action, it would have set a precedent that would have, made every officer second guess every time they pulled their weapon. That was the excuse and the argument, and it won over the jury. And it was just strange, man. It was a weird time to be up here. I live in a really, really diverse community, and it's kind of up and coming. And, I was driving down the street, and, I saw a group of like 12 to 15 brothers, standing around a barber shop all talking. I know they're talking about the verdict, and it's something that's up here, man. And it's just, this isn't a city that has big problems with black and white or any divide like that, but because it was actually like where the Underground Railroad ended, where they hired a lot of former slaves to work in like the lumber mills and such. So it's always been kind of a working man's town where there hasn't been that like divide, but there's always been that undercurrent. And I think it's, thankfully our economy's good, but man, I can only imagine in places where there's no jobs, how it's just making things even worse.
And this one too is a little different because I think, wasn't the cop Latino, right?
He was, and he scored. He was a 4.0 student with a law degree, like a bachelor's degree, and he was probably on his way to becoming a detective. But it just goes to show, not everybody's got the mental, or psychological makeup to do this job. From all accounts, Philandro was a legal concealed carry permit guy who was not reaching for the gun, but instead told the guy, listen, I've got a concealed carry permit. I'm going to get my ID. And the guy said, don't reach for your gun. And as soon as he said that, he started shooting. And that's the problem, is these guys are getting trained now to just be judge, jury, executioner, to protect themselves at all costs. I mean, he barely missed the baby girl in the back seat, barely missed Diamond, who's the girlfriend that filmed the whole thing. But it's a messed up story all the way around, because they're sitting there in a park or whatever, and they're probably, both pretty high with the kid in the back. I mean, the guy's, I don't know, man. It was a really messed up situation. He'd been profiled. He had so many reports done on him, and he complained to the city. I mean,
and so, being that this cop was a Latino, you don't see the typical divide and conquer narrative from the media. White cop kills black man.
His white partner didn't even draw, Nick. He didn't even touch his gun.
Yeah, and so you're not seeing that narrative as much. But I think, like you said, dude, it's more of a class warfare issue here. There can be Latino and black cops that end up killing white guys that are in poor neighborhoods. There can be white cops killing black guys in poor neighborhoods.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sure somewhere in the South, a black cop's killed a white guy and got off. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's blue's always going to beat you unless you got enough green.
Yeah, and it's that old that saying that's been around. It's the state versus you. It's not white versus black and stuff. Now, of course, we don't want to diminish the fact that there is a lot of racial profiling that goes on. And I've been subject to that kind of stuff several times here in San Diego, and it happens. Like racism, especially institutional racism, is heavily prevalent still in the United States. It's not going away. It needs to be about and addressed.
Do you think that's trained, Nick, or do you get the feeling when you get harassed that it's a personal thing to these dudes, or do you think it's like they've been trained over and over again? Oh, look for this, look for this, look for this.
I think that's part of it, and then the other part is just black and brown people have just been criminalized, just from a societal level. They look at a black dude and it's like they look at him like a gangster rapper type of thing, as a thug or something like that. But this is an interesting case, being that the cop was Latino. You're not seeing all that divide and conquer stuff. I found that to be a very interesting precedent, and of course, the cop got off.
There was another thing up here where black guy got shot by Hmong cop, who is the Vietnamese, the hill tribes that helped us fight against the communists during that war. But a bunch of them came to Minneapolis area, especially St. Paul, and there's a bunch of cops, and one of them shot a guy, and it almost started something, but the media couldn't politicize it. And that's the thing, man. They're just trying to divide and make this wedge. And it's working for people. Some people are getting angry, and I can feel an undercurrent, but I'm like, hey, man, I'm not that generation. I'm from California. Like, don't look at me in that same light, please. All I can ask.
The agenda here is to turn the poor working class people, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Asian, or anything else, is to turn those people against each other so that they neutralize themselves. I don't know how many times we've talked about this on this show, but that's the agenda. Because if all of those working class people one day were like, you know what the hell are we doing out here looking at each other like suspects? These assholes that are running the show are the ones that are causing all the problems. The banking class, the political class, the parasite class, the Federal Reserve, the extremely rich families that control all the resources. 5 people now. 5 people, according to all the wealth that's on the books. Of course, there's hidden wealth that we don't know about and stuff. But so, according to the most recent tally, 5 people own the same amount of wealth as the other poorest half of the rest of the world. It was 6 people just a few months ago, and it was 8 people last year. Now it's down to 5.
Well, a couple of them died, Nick.
Yeah. The Rockefeller dude just recently died.
Hey, what I was gonna say though is like, it's so classism now. It's unbelievable, and that's the truth, man. It doesn't matter if we, like you said, if we all came together. Here's the thing: Philandro's as much a victim of poor training and maybe a guy's own inherent racism or horrible experiences growing up as it is the fact that we need armed cops to protect those 5 mega billionaire trillionaire guys. That's why cops are here. They're not to protect me and you. They're to feed that money system. They wanted to put Philandro in the jail, the prison industrial complex. But you know what? He was a good guy. His only crime was he liked to smoke. And that was it. And he died for it. And that wasn't going to be enough to keep him in this prison industrial complex that feeds these 5 mega trillionaire billionaire guys.
Yeah. And, this is the big tragedy, too, is that, Philando did not pose a threat. He let the cop know, look, I got a gun here. It's legit. I'm letting you know so you don't freak out. And then boom, 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 he just shot him down. And it was just ridiculous. And you know what? You know what I want to know? Where in the fuck is the NRA? Where are they at? Were they helping defend this case? Were they paying for the lawyers and stuff for his family? Have they made any statements? They're not. They're not saying anything. That tells you a lot about the NRA. The NRA is not a universal gun rights organization. It protects gun rights for white conservatives. That's it. This guy should be a huge Second Amendment case as well as just, a civil rights case and, the typical cops killing people. But the NRA, this should be a huge gun rights lawsuit right here, because the NRA is always talking about, well, we got to protect our rights. They're going to come for our rights, and they're going to take our guns and shit. It's like they actually did it. They shot a guy and killed him for flexing his Second Amendment, and the NRA, where are they? They're nowhere to be found. The NRA is not a legit gun rights organization, and when it comes down to it, I'm very skeptical of the NRA. I've bought a few guns legally, and when you buy a gun, it comes with like a form to join the NRA, and I've opted out because they do not represent everybody. They only have a very narrow agenda, which basically serves white conservatives, and that's basically it. And they don't give a shit about everyone else's rights. And Philando Castile was well within his rights with his gun. And I don't even think you should have to have a permit to be concealed carrying. You should be able to carry whatever the hell you want. But, he followed the law. He had his permit in order, and they still killed him anyway. And that was his only crime. His only crime was following the law. I mean, sure, they may have pulled him over for having a busted taillight or whatever, smoking weed or whatever, all those bullshit laws. But the guy was executed because he was obeying the law. It's ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, when I come home, when I'm driving off the freeway, when I come home late at night, when I'm driving home and I get off the freeway, you know what I'm more afraid of? I'm not afraid of some thug or some tweaker or some homeless guy that's going to try to reach in my window and grab me or take my shit. I'm more afraid of the thug-ass cops that lurk around my neighborhood trying to hide behind stop signs and catch you rolling through a stop sign in a completely empty intersection where nobody's in danger. And then they pull you over and then they try to get you for whatever they can get you for, whether they try to give you a breathalyzer, try to search you, try to see if you got your registration, which is something that I need to go tomorrow. I got to go to the damn DMV and pay $400 fucking dollars to pay my registration for my damn car. $400.
Damn.
And right now I'm rolling around with a month-old registration on my car. I didn't realize it. I don't.
And that's not the new Tesla, is that, Nick? That's like the 20-year-old Nissan, right?
No, I wish I had a Tesla.
So yeah, that 400 is just robbery.
Highway robbery, dude.
I mean, seriously, like, what do you get for that? Because I know those roads suck.
Dude, you might as well be off-roading in some of these roads around here, dude. I got to get my car lifted up so I could ride on these things.
Didn't they just increase gas tax again because they're like, the roads suck, we need more money?
Yeah, dude, it's a joke. This whole thing's a joke. At this point, I feel like we got to start privatizing, not privatizing in the way of like corporatizing communities, but like building our own private.
Why aren't businesses just paying for frontage? I mean, everywhere, and then if the rest of it's just obviously used for the military. Military pay for it.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. If you want, maybe you can make every interstate highway like a toll. I don't know, but
I've been to plenty of like private communities where it's like gated off, and there's like a whole community in there where there's like maybe couple hundred houses and stuff. Those places are nice. They're kept up. Like the roads are clean and they're smooth and they're great. Around here, we get robbed I'm paying $400 tomorrow for my registration, and they just raised the taxes on our gas. In California, the taxes on every gallon of gas, it's like, I think it's around $1.50 for every single gallon. And just imagine the amount of people that live in California. It's the single largest state in the country. It's more spread out than most states. So people here drive a lot, and it's the richest state in the country. So think about it, dude. The amount of taxes they get just in gasoline sales alone is enormous. It's probably I don't know, $250 million a day or something ridiculous like that. I don't know. I'm probably saying way too much, but it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, it just pisses me off, dude. And these cops are just out there collecting revenue, bullying people, dude. I'm more afraid. Like I said, dude, I don't live in the best area. It's not as bad as it was when I was growing up. It's gotten a lot nicer ever since the war on drugs kind of got rolled back around here. And a lot of the gangs kind of dissipated. But I'm not afraid of walking around the streets in my neighborhood. I'm not afraid of driving around the streets in my neighborhood, even though it may not be the best area. I'm afraid of the damn cops giving me a hard time. And that to me is just telling. It's very telling, and I think a lot of people feel that way, especially younger people. Maybe if you're like really old and you've been around for a long time, the cops pull you over and they're like, oh, it's an old grandpa. They're not going to give them a hard time. But if you're someone that's my age, you don't look as clean cut as maybe you should, according to the cops anyway. They could try to get you for anything, just to try to search you and see if you have weed or whatever. And it's really sad that this country has kind of descended to that point where even the community cops are kind of just going around hurting and killing people. And I think we're still on track this year the cops are on track to kill another 1,000 people. They've been killing over 1,000 people a year since like 2013, I believe. And it's getting ridiculous. And look at what's going on. Let's shift gears here and go into foreign policy because God, dude, this foreign policy stuff is just going on. But look at this media hypocrisy on this dude that was put into a coma by North Korea. This American guy that was over there who was accused of trying to steal a poster from a hotel, which is stupid as hell. And who knows if he really did it. Maybe it was just a setup. Maybe they thought he was a spy or whatever. They put him into a coma for one reason or another. I don't know what they did to him. If they beat him, if they gave him some drugs or what. I don't know what they did. But
he wasn't complying with their order of hard labor, and so they tried to make him more docile, and they overloaded him because he's a big, skinny white dude, and they're used to treating not those kind of guys, and so they gave him the wrong dose, and he went into a coma.
Yeah, and now he just died. And so don't get me wrong, this is a very sad situation, but this has become this big media propaganda narrative where it's like, oh my God, look how bad North Korea is. I can't believe they put this guy into a coma. It's like, yeah, that is bad, but how can we point fingers at them when our own cops just got away with killing Philando Castile for no reason other than him following the damn law? Our cops kill 1,000 people a year, so now that this North Korea thing is happening, it's dominating the headlines much more than the Philando Castile thing. And they're just trying to use it to demonize North Korea because it serves a purpose of propaganda, obviously.
Pretty sure that guy wouldn't want us to go to war because of that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that people see through this and hoping people see this media hypocrisy. It's like, let's pay attention to the shit that we got going on here because we're poisoning our own people. They got what's going on in Flint. You got like a mass poisoning of people. There's a whole generation of kids there that are probably going to grow up not mentally fully capable as they should be because they've been ingesting lead for their whole life. That's a big issue. I mean, one guy getting poisoned by a crazy dictator in North Korea, yeah, it sucks, but I can say that's probably a little predictable. The fact that not just Flint, but communities all around the country are poisoning our kids with lead, that's something that is right here at home that we should be dealing with, and we shouldn't be over there trying to encircle North Korea with half of our Navy for no reason. But anyway, let's shift gears here. The Philando Castile thing is obviously fresh on our mind. It's really, really sad what happened to that guy. And I remember when it first happened. The guy was a damn hero in the community. I mean, maybe not a hero in the typical sense, but he was a role model to a bunch of kids and stuff. And like the dude was doing pretty good for himself, dude. Like he did not deserve to die. It's really sad. But we got some huge, huge stuff going on here with the U.S. and Russia in Syria. This is stuff we've been warning about for a long time now. Since 2013, we tried to stop the war in Syria. It kind of worked. They used their Jedi mind tricks to trick us into going in to supposedly fight ISIS. Anyone paying close attention understands that the whole we're over there fighting ISIS is not exactly accurate. I mean, yeah, sure, we bomb ISIS here and there and whatever. ISIS's de facto capital is in Raqqa, and we just got done shooting down a Syrian jet over Raqqa. So the Syrian government was over there bombing ISIS, and we shot down their jet. So you tell me. I mean, you tell me if that means. Oh yeah, does that mean we're fighting ISIS?
I think that means the S-500s are about to go online.
Man, yeah. Those things
Have you seen those, Nick?
Yeah, I have. Those things are dangerous. They're the anti.
They're 110-mile radius, so if they just park it in the middle of the country, you can't really even get anywhere near them. It's those are the drone killers because they just launch autonomously and they can track 120 targets or something ridiculous each. So I don't know, man. We're gonna see. We're gonna see if drones beat rocketry or something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Joining us now, we've got our awesome journalist Jake Anderson. Man, we've missed you, dude. Where you been?
Well, last Monday I fell asleep right before the show. And then Wednesday, I can't remember what happened, but then today I fell asleep right before the show too, man. I don't know. Monday's just killing me. I don't know what's going on.
I'm gonna send you an espresso machine.
Hey, you ever read?
Okay.
You ever read Wilt Chamberlain's autobiography, Jake?
Did he say something negative about sleeping?
No, I was just thinking you're probably not getting that much sleep in Portland, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, but I'm still keeping up with everything that's going on. Old Jake, trust me, old Jakey's not happy, if that's what you're thinking.
You're out there partying all night with Antifa, and then you're not getting any sleep.
Hey, you've been probably hooking up with more chicks with dreads than your entire life before now.
Exclusively, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so Jake, dude, you've been watching what's going on, dude. Shit is heating up over there in Syria, and now we're one step away from a direct conflict with Russia. We shot down a Russian jet. Russia. That was yesterday. Now Russia is saying that they're going to start shooting down any aircraft that's over Syria. The U.S. ordered its people in Syria to defend itself. So if our guys are flying jets over there and then Russia tries to shoot them down, they've been ordered to defend themselves and shoot back. So we're the powder keg is there and the match is like just burning right up to it. It's about to light the shit on fire. I mean, Jake, what's your take on all this, man? Like, this is now we're starting to look at what I'm seeing anyway. Is we're in one of the most dangerous times on foreign policy stuff that I've ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, what are you noticing about this?
Well, I mean, it seems to be exactly what they want. I mean, I've been baffled since, before the election. It's the rhetoric that's been coming out against Russia, and even Tura actually is now coming out and joining RT, and saying he wants to see normalized relations between us and Russia because it's kind of dangerous, having two such powerful countries jawing at each other. But Syria is just, I don't know. I mean, it definitely is being, it's a pawn in this war that's going on, and I don't really see what the U.S. has to gain from it at all. Furthermore, I don't know why we're attacking the people that are attacking ISIS. So I've been utterly baffled by what we're doing. I mean, I'm normally pretty baffled by what we're doing, but I'm particularly baffled by what we're doing regarding Syria and Russia.
So this is now the third act of war that we've committed against the Syrian government. And as far as I know, Trump has not gotten congressional approval. I think there's like a window of 30 days where the president can go ahead and start attacking governments, and then within 30 days he has to get permission from the Congress. Now, from what I can tell, Congress is basically sitting on its hands, and it's more concerned with, checking everybody's closets to see if Putin is hiding underneath, your clothes in your closet or whatever they're doing. Congress is just languishing. Why is Congress even there at this point? They're not doing shit. Like, the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex are calling all the shots. They're calling all the shots right now. And then, the neocons that Trump has been, that have been forced into the Trump administration, because as you know, the Trump's cabinet has been shuffled around because the guys that he first had in there were kind of more friendly towards Russia. And now he's got a bunch of neocons in there after these guys were kind of forced out by the CIA leaks that have come out through the Washington Post and all that stuff. Is it any coincidence? And I want to ask both Jake and DB on this. Is it any coincidence that we're on the brink of war with Russia, and ever since the election has been over, there's been a major propaganda campaign to try to demonize Russia as them interfering in our election? I mean, do you think these two things are unrelated, or did they lay this propaganda down in order to get the public's consent when it came time to fight directly with Russia? I mean, what do you guys think?
I'll just repeat again. I don't understand the end game, so I can't possibly tell you what they're trying to do, because I don't. I mean, I don't know are they trying to directly escalate war between the U.S. and Russia? Because if they are, this seems like this would be the playbook for doing that.
I think, Jake, we did a show, one of our shows earlier, where we said that not only was, the MIC and the Pentagon, everything pushing for war, but the thought of fighting Russia and China at the same time was like exciting to them. And they were doing like everything in their power to fight a two-front war again, because they thought that would be like the last war and they could win. And they didn't really care how many Americans die. They don't care. They really don't. Like, if 90% of us go, so be it. If they win, and they're willing to accept that risk. So that's where we're at in human history. We have a government that's totally acceptable to them, and the scariest part about it is if they did decide to put all their weight behind it, maybe they do beat both. I don't know, man. I have no idea what we have cooking in laboratories underground and whatnot.
I mean, this stuff really blows my mind, dude, and it really saddens me. Because first of all, they lied to us. They lied to us the first time around when they tried to say that they were going to go overthrow the Syrian government. Now, keep in mind, this is under Obama. This is back in 2013. Without having sufficient evidence, they tried to say that Assad was using chemical weapons against his own people, and they would try to make the case for regime change. The American people said, you know what, we're not going to allow that to happen. We don't have enough evidence, and even if we did have enough evidence, I mean, are we going to go overthrow a government for hurting its own people? Like, are we going to do that?
Like, we've already done that before. We've seen that song and dance before in Iraq and Libya, so we got tired of that. So now they have to come up with new shit, new excuses.
Exactly. And so then they lied to us on that front because we found out later. I mean, it's still kind of disputed, but at least some investigations, including one from the UN, found that the Syrian government was not responsible for that chemical attack, and that it was actually the rebels. Of course, both sides are going to point fingers at each other. We don't know the real story. But the bottom line is we don't know the facts. How can we make a judgment and it's like Iraq. How can we go say, oh, Saddam has all this stuff, and we don't actually have the facts. We're pretty sure about them. And then, oops, a million people dead later. Oh, I guess we didn't have the facts correct. But
listen to these people. Listen to these intelligence officials who got that intelligence wrong. Let's keep listening to them for other things.
God, ridiculous, right? And so when that didn't happen, 2013, and I'm proud to say that we were a huge part of that campaign, the No War with Syria campaign. I'm proud to say that we helped we actually jump-started that whole thing, and I'm happy about that. What I'm not happy about is that only months later they said, okay, well, Syrian government isn't the target that we're going after in Syria, but we have to go over there to fight terrorism because ISIS is really bad, and they're cutting off people's heads, and that's really bad. Even though our homies in Saudi Arabia cut off people's heads too, but let's not even talk about that. Let's just focus in on ISIS and let's go invade Syria and fight ISIS.
Let's also, I want to just, sorry to interrupt you, Nick, but I just want to briefly say, let's also conveniently not report that Iran is also fighting ISIS and launching extremely expensive and advanced weapons at them. And they're sending their own guys down on the ground, and they're dying fighting ISIS. And we're going to try to now set something up where Saudi Arabia fights Iran, which is fighting ISIS. So what in the hell, dude? It's just chaos for chaos' sake.
Yeah, they don't have the strategy is just to keep fighting going and to keep the war going. The goal is not to win the war.
And advanced weapons are being put onto the field now. Like, this is becoming the proxy chessboard that Brzezinski was talking about. He just didn't live to see it, but it's coming to fruition. Like, S-500s going into Syria have a good chance of shooting down our manned aircraft, not just drones, but people, like cargo planes, like maybe even worse, maybe civilian airliners go into the wrong airspace, because how are they supposed to know what's what?
And the moment Russia shoots down an American jet with an American guy in it, and all the propaganda that has been laid, like, let's think about this. The Cold War propaganda, the Red Scare, the USSR stuff, that's all deep-rooted in the minds of our parents and everyone older than our parents. Okay, so, like, I think part of the reason why they've re-invoked this whole anti-Russian hysteria was because they already did billions of dollars of propaganda to demonize Russia that went back during the USSR times before the fall of the Soviet Union. So it's kind of like a piece of propaganda. All you got to do is go in and flip a switch, and you reactivate the anti-Russian stuff. All the older people are already ready to buy into that crap, right? And now after the election, they laid all this new groundwork with saying that Russia hacked our election and stuff. Still haven't seen a shred of evidence about it. It's most likely bullshit. I mean, sure, countries try to meddle in other countries' affairs all the time. That's typical shit. Did Russia actually influence the outcome of our election? I highly doubt it.
No, they concluded that it didn't change the election. So it's like, okay, it's like that's weird. Bad Russia. Bad.
How dare you expose corruption?
Yeah.
Well, dude, if they had GOP stuff, I'm sure it would have come out. They just didn't get it leaked to them. There was no Seth Rich in the GOP. Maybe because they saw that Trump, as weird and crazy as he is, legitimately won an election.
Yeah, Trump actually won. As retarded as that sounds, as horrible as that sounds, as xenophobic and racist as his supporters are, that's America, buddy. That's who we are at this point.
And they're not all, or they weren't all racist. Many of them were just under or unemployed and desperate.
Yeah.
So they believed his con. And you know what? Manufacturing is coming back. It's just not going to be enough unless it goes for years and years and years. But it may come as a result of wars, and it could just, a lot of crazy stuff could happen, man. So I don't know, but the alternative is Pence. So I hope people aren't crazy enough to actually be buying into this impeachment bullshit.
Yeah, I'd rather have an ineffective president than an effective one, to be honest. I honestly think Obama was more dangerous than Trump because
we survived 2 terms of Bill Clinton, and it turns out he was the worst president of all time because of NAFTA. So we can survive 2 terms of Trump if we can survive 2 of Clinton that gutted the economy.
Yeah, I'd rather have a lame duck, ineffective president that's unpopular than someone like Obama who's slick and can actually make things happen. Look, but that being said, this collision course with Russia is about to happen. And the people in this country, honestly, it seems like no one gives a fuck. No one gives a shit. They really don't.
I think all the boomers are going to paratroop into Moscow, and we're going to have no pension problem.
I just don't think people believe. I just don't think people believe that we could go, that any kind of protracted, military standoff would happen with Russia again, which is mind-blowing that, we came so close to supposedly a nuclear war during the Cold War with Russia, and yet the same people that lived through that are now, throwing this right back into the ring again. It really is, it's kind of a litmus test you can put out there for who buys propaganda and how easily. It's what they believe of the Russia claims.
It's just the way
I'm perpetually blown away by how on point every single mainstream media person is, to a T. Every single time there's someone who's questioning it, they always ask in this just incredulous voice, "You don't think Russia tried to influence the election?" You know, it's across the board from Fox to OPB here in Portland. It's just the media, I've never seen such lockstep propagandized media assault as it's just literally every single media person I've heard for the past year has asked, and you know, they're just blown away by the idea that you would think that Russia was not involved in hacking our elections, when the only evidence is from intelligence, the same intelligence apparatus that told us that there were weapons of mass destruction, and no evidence has been submitted, and they've even admitted that they did try and interfere. They did try and get information from state, local and state coffers, but none of it was changing the election. They weren't going in and switching votes. They didn't steal any election. It's completely, the whole situation is just completely screwed up based on the media, based on what they've done, their narrative.
Yeah, dude. And, the other thing is that it's like anybody who was in a position to effectively question this stuff, like us, for instance, like I was saying, in 2013, we, the anti-media, and me, and everyone else involved, DB, Jake, I don't know if you were with us back then, but we helped stop that shit. We helped stop regime change in Syria, which would have been, if it would have gone through, Syria would be worse off now because it would be run, the whole country would be run by ISIS. But not only have they ramped up this Russia stuff, but anybody who was in a position to effectively challenge this narrative, after the election, we've been labeled fake news, Russian agents, and we've been algorithmically censored by Facebook and Google and YouTube and basically anybody else you can think of. And so they've clamped down on the internet, they've clamped down on anybody countering these narratives, and they've jammed this Russian propaganda, or this anti-Russian propaganda, up everybody's asses, day in and day out, month after month after, and we're going on a year now where they've been saying this shit. They are getting us ready for a big-ass war with Russia, and there's no other way to put it. And you know what? Americans haven't seen the casualties in a long time. I mean, the amount of people on our side that died in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's pretty small, dude. It's pretty small. I mean, I don't even think 10,000 guys have died yet. It's not like Vietnam where you got, 50,000, 60,000 guys dead, and then everyone's parents and brothers and sisters and friends are like, what the fuck are you guys doing over there? Why are we fighting over there? And then all the footage comes out of them massacring Vietnamese villages and shit. And they're like, okay, no. Like, and all of a sudden you had an anti-war movement. This is unfortunately what is going to have to happen. These guys are going to take us to war, and nobody's going to give a shit until their families start dying and the casualties start coming home in body bags, draped in flags. Like, this is the sad thing, dude. No one gives a shit. We're constantly putting out content, dude. I can't tell you guys how many articles we've put warning about the incoming conflict between the U.S. and Russia. In fact, the one today, the main story, U.S. and Russia teetering on the brink of war, what you're not being told. A great, long breakdown, technical analysis by our Middle East, beat writer, Darius, who is amazing, who has predicted a bunch of this stuff that has been going on. If you guys aren't already following him, please follow him on all the social media outlets, because this guy is predicting this stuff, analyzing and seeing it coming and putting it out there weeks and months ahead of time. We're warning everybody about this, and nobody gives a shit. Outside of a handful of anti-war activists and anarchists and far leftists and libertarians and stuff, yeah, sure, maybe 5% of the population actually cares about this, but it's not enough to stop it. I'm afraid that I never wanted to admit to this, but it's not going to be enough to stop it now.
What do you see happening down there, especially because, we know that in the southwestern states they did that Jade Helm thing because I'm sure they were expecting if there was a fracture in society, it'd be along that border there on the Rio Grande. So I'm guessing that they've already kind of planned contingencies for anything happening. But what would you think about just something outright conflict where a major heavy casualty toll, and I'm talking about not just tens of thousands, but maybe more than that, were to hit and they can't cover it up? Then do people in a lot of the states that are like, F Trump, I'm not going to go with this presidency, blah, 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 start taking it an advantage to break away? I feel like that could easily happen, like from what I'm hearing from a lot of people, because they're just so fed up with the overreach of the Fed.
Well, I'll be out there on the front lines trying to secede California from the rest of the country, but and
Texas might too, and they have the legal right.
In the event of some kind of tragedy, the whole damn country is going to lose its mind, and they're all going to get on Trump's jock, and they're all going to say, "We trust our president. We'll do what he wants. If we need to go fight Russia, that's what we need to do." These people, dude. The majority.
Not everyone, though. But not everyone.
Not everyone, but the majority of these idiots, sorry to say, they're going to go right along with it, and they're not going to say nothing until their own family members start dying. And then they're going to think,
Trump worked with Russia to get elected. Now we're going to work with Trump to fight Russia.
To stay elected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020.
Dude, just think about this. Look, you want to know how dumb people are? The same people that said Comey was a traitor that got Trump elected are out there protesting in favor of Comey months later when, after Trump fired him. The same exact people. People are idiots, dude. They're
saying
idiots.
Saying things like Comey is my homie and just horrible slogans. Did you see him dancing at a wedding?
No.
There was some pictures of Comey dancing at a wedding.
Did you see him try to dunk a basketball and he got stuffed by the rim and he's 6'8"?
No, I didn't see that either. I need to watch that. But
dude, what are you guys' thoughts on this?
No hops.
This is totally off subject, but
do it. Enough doom and gloom. Look, don't give up.
It's gloomy. What I'm about to say. It's definitely gloomy. Let's
keep spreading peaceful propaganda and try to stop this shit from happening. I'm just saying, be ready for it to happen, and we'll be able to stop it, but we won't be able to stop it until it starts happening for real. And then finally people will start waking up because, I'm not sure about how the resistance was to Vietnam like before it happened, but I know that when people's family members started coming home in body bags, then the protests started. Anyway, let's move on. Jake, what do you got, dude?
Right. Now there's an issue we need to talk about, and it's just one word, and it's Krampus. No, I'm just kidding. What do you guys think?
Grenfell.
Krampus is a threat to all freedom-loving people. No, this North Korean thing, man. I'm telling you,
poor Otto.
There's something very peculiar. I thought this whole thing was very peculiar to begin with. He sounds odd in his confession. I don't want to get.
He's an evangelical too. Don't discount that connection.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into conspiracy theory here, and I don't want to go into any, he's a plant to beef up to stir up a fight with North Korea. But I mean, that's a pretty big fuck up on North Korea's fault that he was in a coma we're supposed to believe he was in a coma for a year, and they didn't. I mean, as soon as they realized he was going to die, they got his ass out of there because they realized, holy shit, this is going to be a big deal if this guy dies with us. But I mean, I guess this is this is not of the geopolitical ilk as Syria, but it's hard for me to look at the news. I can't look at the news as objective anymore. I look at it as psyops, psyop upon psyop, and even accidents, even real accidents that are occurring that the administration are responding to. They're still responding with psyops. So with this auto thing, it's certainly, I feel like it's going to be used to in the rhetoric against North Korea. But I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what on that situation.
Otto was an evangelical, and there's a huge growing South Korean evangelical community there. It's actually that their prime minister was booted out because she was part of this offshoot cult, right? So
killed.
Well, she's not killed because she's protected. That's their secret society, and they have a completely different set and sect. But they want to use a drive to literally demonize the North Korean regime. What better way than to get the U.S. military to throw grunt after high-tech grunt at them after we've drone bomb carpet them into submission? I mean, we're going to invade them soon, I'm sure.
I absolutely think. I think the Russia thing is clearly a huge threat, but I think we're going to see some kind of military action against North Korea long before anything against Russia. I think we're going to see some kind of cyber attack or some way to incapacitate the country. And then, here's why I think it's going to happen. It's the military-industrial complex wants it, of course. And think of the optics on that for both Trump and the deep state. That's a dream come true for both of them, is taking out North Korea, because that's a legitimate fear of Americans. I'm not saying it would be a legitimate.
That's a lot of bomb sales.
I'm not saying it would be a legitimate. It would not be a legitimate. It'd be a war crime. But if we start seeing, North Korea being painted in this light, look at what happened with Syria. All of a sudden, there was gassing their own children, and literally within one day, we had a bomb on Syria. Most people knowledgeable of North Korea believe they will be nuclear ready. That is, nuclear ready in terms of being able to strike the U.S. mainland within about 2 years. It makes absolute sense that we're going to try something against them within 2 years. We're not going to let them get nuclear. We're not going to let this guy get a nuke. So that leaves us about 2 years to do something against them. The question is whether it's worth it for them. What is North Korea sitting on that's worth it for the West?
Well,
I incorrectly spoke once and said they have a bunch of minerals. I'm not sure what the benefit to them, and that's usually where we see war, is when we see resources. I don't know what the benefit would be.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's more of a they're more seen as like a beachfront or a beachhead against China in some way or another.
Yeah.
But let's look at the facts. North Korea has never attacked another country ever. They've never invaded anybody. They have never gone around trying to overthrow governments. Sure, they're a crazy, reclusive government that probably treats its own people like shit. I'm sure that they have a prison camp. Their per capita prison population is less than the United States, by the way. We imprison more of our people per capita than they do. So if you want to, if we want to go in there on human rights, on human rights grounds, we should go invade Washington, D.C. because that's where the criminals are at, who we actually are being affected by right now. North Korea has zero fucking effect over any of our lives. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. North Korea has no effect over our lives.
Plus, why are we not allowing China opportunity to control their sphere? And who thinks it's not going to spill over somehow?
It will eventually, but like China is a different kind of empire than us. They don't go out attacking other empires. When they're going to take something over, they basically say, this is going to be ours. We're taking this, and they do it.
Something over, they build a railroad into your country, and then they start shipping goods in. That's what they do.
Yeah,
and they ship
exactly.
Up. They trade.
They don't give bank IMF bank loans that completely defraud 10 different countries.
Don't forget about Tibet though. Tibet sucked for them.
No, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying is they do militarily occupy. They militarily occupy Tibet for sure, but they're not making they're not pretending they're not. They just do it, but they don't. But you don't see China out, occupying some Latin American country for resources or subverting their election like you see the U.S. doing. It's different kind of empire building, and I think people are sick to death of our kind of empire building.
Yeah, Eastern empires are more honest about what they do. Russia is honest about what it's doing in Syria. It's there to prop up the Syrian government, and it has deemed anybody fighting against Syrian government as a terrorist, and they're going to kill anybody that fights against the Syrian government. They're honest. China is honest about Tibet. They're not over there saying, oh, we're protecting Tibet's democracy and we're bringing them freedom. It's like, no, we're taking them over. We're occupying. We're censoring the shit out of it. We're controlling them socially. They're honest. They're upfront. So that way they can be effective at it. They don't have to pretend like they're not doing it while trying to do it while not being obvious that they're doing it like we do. They're honest about it, and so they can do it effectively. I'm not saying I condone it or anything. It's fucked up what goes on in Tibet. But they're honest about it, and so that they could actually do it, and everyone knows what they're doing. We're still over in Syria acting like we're doing something good. And in fact, when like I said, we've committed 3 acts of war against Syria, and all 3 times we said that we did it out of self-defense. We're inside of Syria somehow defending ourselves from Syria. Like, let that sink in a little bit. That's just, it's insane. It's so dishonest that it makes me want to hit people when they believe that shit. I want to slap people because it's retarded. What's going on in North Korea, everything that you hear about North Korea is pure propaganda. Everything. Like I said, they're a peaceful damn country. They're so peaceful. They're not hurting anybody.
It's the ultimate fear-mongering, and that's why I don't even know if they'd want to take that away. It's the ultimate symbol of fear-mongering.
It's like, well, what if? Well, what if they get a nuclear? What if they get a missile? What if they get this? What if they do? They've never used it on anybody, so how can we sit here and say, well, we have to prevent them from doing something when there's no evidence, no data to show that they're actually going to do something if they do develop the weapons?
We're the only ones who have used it.
And they're such a tiny country with an economy that is so goddamn weak. I mean, I bet their economy is weaker than like every state in the country. Like their economy is probably weaker than Wyoming's, where nobody lives. Like
they have trouble making electrical power. I mean,
hey, look, man, you can say what you want about North Korea, but I'll be goddamned if I'm going to sit here and listen to you talk about Wyoming. Okay?
Hey. Wyoming is a beautiful place.
We should ship over a bunch of huge windmills to North Korea. That'll fix the whole country.
There you go. Look, anytime these assholes want to talk about going into North Korea and doing something about the problem over there, there's no problem. They're not doing anything to anybody, so it's all propaganda. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back Wednesday night. Anti-Media Radio, 5 days a week.
Like I told you, I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing, but call it a reality, cause there's no illusion.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.